People will complain, but I know finally they will appreciate that the money we go to borrow from the World Bank is savings of other countries. We have to begin to live within our means.
President William Ruto defends plan to impose additional taxes on Kenyans to get the country out of debt, vying to push the taxation rate to 22% from the current 14%.
We are ready to go back to the streets if that is what it takes. And I hope you are bold enough.
This nation can only be changed if there are demonstrations, no negotiations.
Azimio threatens to go back to the streets if the government fails to listen to its citizens over the new taxes in the Finance Bill 2024, terming them as punitive.
Hiyo siku ya jana kulikuwa kumeporomoka zaidi ya mara mbili. Asubuhi kitu ya saa 4 kuna moja ilikuwa imeporomoka, kitu saa 7, saa 6 kuna nyingine ilikuwa imeporomoka. Hii ndio ilikuwa ya mwisho na ndio ilikuwa kubwa zaidi.
And efforts to retrieve the bodies of at least 3 people feared to be buried under the rubbles in the Kimende landslides ongoing. Plus, Kenyans urged to embrace high sanitary levels to avoid contracting and spreading waterborne diseases, with 56 cholera cases detected in Tana River. Well, good evening to you. K24 Evening Edition begins right now. I'm Alan Owino. Our sign language interpreter for this session is Walter Asere. President William Ruto has defended the government's plan to impose additional taxes on Kenyans, stating that it's the only way to get the country out of debt. The president intends to raise the country's average tax from the rate of 14 to 16% by the end of 2024 and between 20 and 22% by the end of his term in office. This comes even as the National Treasury called on Kenyans and Parliament to adopt the Finance Bill 2024 as it is. As Jill Chachanao reports, the National Treasury is projecting a revenue shortfall in this current financial year to stand at a record 300 billion Kenyan shillings.
Supplementary to, we also...
The Finance Bill 2024, which is now the biggest conversation in the country, owing to the proposed increase in taxes, the National Treasury, however, has urged Parliament to support the bill in its entirety.
You want this money, but where will the money come from? That is a difficult conversation Kenyans don't want to have.
How will we finance that budget? And I want to request Kenyans that we should finance our budget through revenues rather than through debt. Because debt is becoming a problem. Last week, I remember we paid 60 billion on Monday. Yesterday we paid 40 billion. In 1 week, 100 billion. 100 billion can do so much. It is just time to slow. And I'm really beseeching you members, if you can drive the finance bill to generate enough to finance our budget, I think we'll be doing very well. So we're hoping the finance bill that we have now will really be interrogated by yourselves. Even for what we don't have, please propose new measures that in your view you think can help to fill the gap.
According to the Treasury PS Chris Kipto, the revenue shortfall in this financial year will hit over 300 billion Kenya shillings, forcing the government to borrow more against its will.
Yes, we have a gap of about, I think here it's talking about 270, but we are projecting that by end of June, we may not collect 300 billion, that we don't have enough revenues to finance our budget. And debt is the biggest problem.
He further notes that plans are underway to increase the appropriation in aid, which it means a hike in charges to access government services.
We have held meetings with MDS to see if we can review the rates on existing services. Some were reviewed 20 years ago. We are trying to introduce on new emerging services or services currently not charged. We are trying to review policy on suspended charges.
At the same time, President William Ruto, speaking at State House Nairobi, has expressed the need to have more revenue for the country.
My drive is to push Kenya. Possibly this year we will be at 16% from 14%. I want in my term, God willing, to leave it at between 20 and 22%.
This even as the National Treasury is on the spot over millions of shillings donated to Palestine, and as well 90 million spent in legal fees for the Eurobond buyback.
The National Treasury not having legal team Why are we paying people for lawyers for negotiation of Eurobond? Don't you have a legal team?
This issue of Palestine, something on a Palestine, fresh appeal for Palestine territory, 132 million. What is it?
Joel Chacha, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Elsewhere, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has threatened that the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition party could be forced to go back to the streets if the government fails to listen to its citizens on the Finance Bill 2024, which Kenyans have been invited to give their views. Kalonzo, who spoke when he met Azimio MPs in Nairobi, called on the legislators from the coalition to oppose the bill when it's tabled in the House, saying it will burden any already citizens or further burden citizens. Brian Mwai with that report.
As the Finance Bill 2024 continues to elicit reactions from different quarters, the Azimio coalition is now calling on its members to oppose the bill once it's tabled in the House for debate. Speaking during the Azimio PG meeting in Nairobi, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka said the bill will overburden Kenyans with taxes at a time when the cost of living is unbearable.
You have to prepare yourselves to vote a big no. We know this Finance Bill 2024 is receiving public participation, and it happened the same way. Finance Bill 2023, public participation over 90% of Kenyans, 98% said no. Then they went on to implement the very unfortunate taxes, and now you know we went to the streets.
The National Treasury has proposed more taxes on Kenyans in the 2024 Finance Bill, among them on bread and the proposed introduction of motor vehicle tax with a rate of 2.5% of the vehicle's value.
The new taxes on motor vehicles will increase the cost of transportation. So those are the sort of three big things.
The only dreams are how to make life even more difficult for Kenyans. Which other areas can you impart some pain on Kenyans until you get to the place where you are thinking of imposing taxation on bread? I think these people, we must give it to them. They really have depth when it comes to ways of hurting Kenyans.
Every year, with the increment of the taxes, leads to serious increment of expenditures without an increment in income in the pockets of common wananchi. Right now, the Kenya Kwanza government is introducing a tax on bread. This nation can only be changed if there are demonstrations, no negotiations.
The Kenya Kwanza government is coming up with the punitive taxes that affect the standard of living of our people.
The opposition coalition now says it is ready to take to the streets if the bill is passed.
As a coalition, we are ready to go back to the streets if that is what it takes. And I hope you are bold enough. I hope you are bold enough if they now go and cause aggression again on public participation. And there are professionals talking about this.
On the NADCO report, the coalition has accused the government of trying to circumvent the document in a dubious way with the intent to neglect some of the key issues agreed on.
Tafadhali nawaomba, mukienda kitanda kulala na hii watu ya KK, there is no other hope left. The very true hope that is left is this window of NADCO. Na Wakenya wale ambao wako na imani ya kwamba kuna jambo lolote linaweza fanyika after this, wanawaangalia.
The finance bill, which was published on the 9th of May, has already been opposed by Kenyans from different quarters, with the Azimio's take and threats adding to the list of growing dissatisfaction. Brian Mwai, K24, Nairobi.
Efforts to retrieve the bodies of at least 3 people feared to be buried under rubble in the Kimenda landslide are ongoing. Further, residents within the Kimenda escarpment have been urged to vacate to safer grounds, even as the Kenya Red Cross has cordoned off the area as high risk. This follows heavy rains associated with El Nino that have caused widespread flooding across the country. David Kagina tells us more.
At around 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday, residents of Gitemburi, Matathia, witnessed the landslide that led to a significant portion of this road, which connects Kimende to Matathia, to be closed. 3 people who are suspected to be buried here are yet to be found.
Hapa ile mchanga imeteremka na kulalia barabara ni karibu eka 2. Kwa hivyo ni kazi mingi inahitaji kufanyika.
Due to darkness and rains that fell throughout the night, Rescue efforts involving the Kiambu County and National Government's Disaster Department were forced to begin today morning. The presence of these excavators removing sand paints a vivid picture of last night's event. Sand, rocks and trees carried by the landslide are scattered around. However, this is not a strange occurrence for the residents.
Kutoka asubuhi hadi jioni hiyo siku ya jana kulikuwa kumeporomoka zaidi ya mara mbili. Kutoka mnamo tarehe 24 April kumeporomoka mara zaidi ya 10. Viongozi wanakuja hapa na trakta inasongesha mchanga tu kidogo tu ili tupate kwa kupitia.
On the upper side of this valley, which is part of the Rift Valley escarpment, there are also people living there. Heavy rains have also been witnessed. This has led to the ground becoming so saturated with water that during the body's recovery operation, streams of mud from the ground have marched flowing into streams. A complete picture of the dangerous state of this area.
Tunasema watu wakae wakiwa macho sana. Huku ile kitu ya muhimu mpaka hii mvua ikwishe, wacha watu wakae upande huu wa juu. Na tunataka kutahadharisha watu wetu. Hii barabara sasa na hii area sio pahali pazuri.
Tuna watoto ambao wanasoma kutoka upande wa chini wakienda Kimende, kuanzia kesho tuone kama tunaweza kufanya alternative routes ama transport ya kuwapeleka shule, kwa sababu hii barabara tutafunga. Ukiangalia tu maporomoko yanaweza pia kutokea wakati wowote.
For now, residents living downstream have been urged to seek alternative shelter until the situation improves to avoid further disaster. This being the most tragic of the many landslide incidences that have been witnessed in this area, families continue to wait patiently for their loved ones to be retrieved, even as the county government of Kiambu continues to assist those who are at the risk of more landslides to evacuate. For K24 from Lari constituency, I'm David Kagina.
Kenyans are being advised to embrace high sanitary levels to avoid contracting and spreading waterborne diseases, with the Ministry of Health announcing an increase in cases of cholera in Tana River County. Emphasizing the heightened need for prevention, the Center for Disease Control indicates that approximately 1 in 10 people who get sick with cholera will develop severe symptoms such as watery diarrhea and vomiting. Here is Ben Kireda with more.
56 cases of cholera have so far been detected in Tana River County, something that the government has since enhanced its monitoring capacity to avoid spread to other regions.
These outbreaks continue to exert pressure on our health systems, and normally they compromise the delivery of service to our citizens.
Cholera risk factors are present in Kenya, as shown in the 2022 Demographic Health Survey, which depicts that 7% of the population practices open defecation, and only 51% of Kenyans have access to basic hand-washing facility. 16% of Kenyans also drink water directly from a river, lake or irrigation canal.
Our response teams, the public health team, and other emergency multi-agency teams that are camping in Tana River to ensure that all those who have been affected get access to medication.
In Tana River County, only 49% of the population has access to basic water located on premises and free from fecal and chemical contamination. Further, only 9% of the population in Tana River County practice safe sanitation.
We've also been notified this morning that there's an outbreak of diarrhea in one of our prisons within Nyeri. So samples have been collected and the test will be done to ascertain.
The Center for Disease Control CDC says cholera bacterium is usually found in contaminated water or foods. The CDC further indicates that it could take a few hours to 5 days for symptoms to appear after a person ingests cholera bacteria. Ben Kerera, K24, Nairobi.
Starting midnight tonight, services of clinical officers in all major national public hospitals will be withdrawn following failures to agree on a return-to-work formula with the Ministry of Health. Addressing the media a few minutes ago after holding a lengthy meeting with the ministry, union leaders have stated that the national government has failed to meet 4 of their requirements. That includes absorption of UHC staff into permanent and pensionable terms whose contracts are lapsing within this month.
And today, we have been here to finalize the negotiations on our collective bargaining agreement, which we have basically done on the side of the employer, that is the Ministry of Health, and ourselves as the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers. But the problem we are having, and the reason as to why we are not able to sign, is because we are having two players who have become very adamant and who are outside the ministry and outside these negotiations, that being the Salaries and Remuneration Commission and also the Treasury, who up to now have not provided the necessary funds so that the SRC can approve and so that we can be able to include in the collective bargaining agreement and sign. By the time we are doing day 45, we never expected, especially on the side of the national government, that would still be here and without a return to work agreement that then should be registered in court. And so the National Executive Council has ordered, and we expect that all the clinical officers, anesthetists, critical care, and all the other specialties who are working in Mathare Hospital, who are working in Spinal Injury Hospital, who are working in KNH Odhaya Hospital, who are working in KUTRH, who are working in Port Health, from midnight to night, we expect that no clinical officer is going to be providing services there because they must participate in this strike so that we can go back with a return to work agreement as ordered by court.
Well, we take a break at this point, but we'll be back with more updates in a short while.
Mwezi huu wa Mei, changamka na StarTimes. Tunaleta joto na channels mpya na shows mpya kwa ajili yako. Chagua bouquet yako na uwe connected. Enjoy magic na adventure zaidi kwenye Kili Channel.
Oh man, this is gonna be awesome.
Ni sherehe zaidi kwa wapenzi wa spoti.